My name is Ophelia Grant, and I'm 33. I used to think the worst thing a person could do in a relationship was cheat. Now I know there are quieter kinds of betrayal, the ones that happen slowly, over months, while you keep telling yourself you're being understanding, while you keep shrinking your needs to avoid setting off someone else's temper. My boyfriend Brett Walsh had a favorite quote. You've seen it before. Instagram captions, mugs, throw pillows, wine glasses in a home goods aisle. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Marilyn Monroe. Except Marilyn Monroe never said it. It's a misattributed quote that became the battle cry of people who use it to justify terrible behavior. And Brett used it like a key, a way to lock every argument, every apology, every bruise on the inside into one neat little sentence. If I didn't text back fast enough, if you can't handle me at my worst, if he forgot my birthday and called me dramatic for being hurt, if you can't handle me at my worst, if he started a fight in Target over paper towels like we were negotiating a hostage situation, if you can't handle me at my worst. And once, God, I can still hear the plastic crack. He threw my Xbox controller against the wall because I said I needed to finish a work project instead of watching a movie with him. Marilyn Monroe said it best, he snapped. The controller was $65 to replace, by the way. He never paid me back. I should have ended it after the first month. That's the part people say after they survive something. I should have known. But Brett was fun when things were good. The problem was, good kept getting shorter, and worst kept getting longer. Month 1, 80% good, 20% worst. Month 3, 60% good, 40% worst. Month 6, 30% good, 70% worst. By month 8, I wasn't living. I was bracing. My friends tried to warn me. My friend Maya said it over drinks one night, like she was trying to keep her voice casual so I wouldn't get defensive. Ophelia, he's scary. He's not scary, I said too fast. He's just passionate. Maya gave me a look that made my stomach tighten. Passionate doesn't mean you have to be afraid of your own phone. He's been under stress, I insisted. He's had a lot going on. He keyed your car a few months ago. That was a misunderstanding. He carved text me back into your driver's door. He apologized, I said, clinging to that word like it was proof of love. Maya didn't blink. Did he pay for it? No. That was her point. And the worst part was she was right. I knew she was right, but I kept making excuses because admitting the truth meant admitting I had helped build my own cage. The final straw came on a Tuesday. I'm a software developer. Sometimes I'm in meetings. Sometimes I'm heads down coding and don't check my phone for hours. That's normal. That's my job. Brett knew that. It didn't stop him from texting me 17 times in 90 minutes. At first, it was harmless. Hey, hello? Then it started to curdle. Are you ignoring me? Why aren't you answering? This is ridiculous. You're probably texting other guys. And then the message that always made my skin go cold, because it never meant what it pretended to mean. You know what? Forget it. I'm done. We're done. Don't even bother responding. 2 minutes later, actually respond. Then, fine. Wow. I was in a meeting that ran long. The kind where you can't just glance down at your screen because everyone notices. The kind where your boss is talking roadmap and deadlines, and you can feel your career balancing on whether you look engaged. I finished at 3 p.m. I checked my phone. 17 messages, all caps toward the end. I texted back, calm, careful, because I'd learned the tone of my replies could decide whether my night was peaceful or catastrophic. Was in a meeting. What's up? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. Too late. My chest tightened. Too late for what? I called him, straight to voicemail. Texted again, no response. That bad feeling, like your body notices danger before your brain catches up, started crawling up my spine. At 5:30, I walked into the parking garage. My car sat in my usual spot, and for a second, everything looked normal. Then I saw it. My windshield wasn't cracked. It wasn't shattered in a spider web. It was gone. Like someone had taken a sledgehammer to it until the safety glass became a million glittering pieces across my dashboard, my seats, the ground. The entire windshield was just absent. I stood there blinking, mouth dry, trying to make my brain accept what my eyes were seeing. And then I saw the note, on my steering wheel, written in lipstick. His lipstick, the expensive Sephora one he'd made me buy him last month because he insisted it looked better than drugstore brands. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Signed, MM. As if he were Marilyn Monroe. My hands started shaking. Not from sadness, from something sharper. A clean, bright clarity. Because in that moment it clicked. This wasn't love. This wasn't passion. This was a warning painted in lipstick. telling me how far he was willing to go when I didn't behave. I pulled out my phone and called the non-emergency police line. "Hi," I said, voice steady in a way that surprised even me. "I'd like to report vandalism. Someone destroyed my car windshield." "Are you in danger?" the dispatcher asked. "No," I said. "I'm at work. I just came out and found it." "Do you know who did it?" I stared at the lipstick signature. "Yes," I said. "My boyfriend." A pause. "Your boyfriend destroyed your windshield?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I didn't text back fast enough." I didn't say that part out loud right away. I could hear how insane it sounded, how ridiculous it would be to anyone who hadn't lived inside my last 8 months. But I said it anyway. I didn't respond to his text quickly enough. Another pause, longer. "Ma'am," the dispatcher said carefully, "I'm sending an officer." When the officer arrived, Officer Ramirez, late 20s, tired eyes, like he'd seen this kind of chaos before, he took one look at my car and whistled low. "Damn," he said, "he really went for it." "He did," I said, and my voice didn't break. That scared me too, how calm I felt, like I'd already left him emotionally and my body was just catching up. "You sure it was your boyfriend?" Ramirez asked. I held up my phone. The texts, the spiral from hey to you'll see. I showed him the lipstick note. The MM. His eyebrows lifted in a way that wasn't surprise, it was recognition. He took photos, lots of them, called a second officer for backup documentation. Then he asked me the question that felt like a door opening. "You want to press charges?" The garage hummed around us, the distant echo of footsteps, the buzz of lights, and for a second I saw two futures. One where I laughed it off, cleaned it up, let him cry and swear he'd change, let him move the goalpost again, and one where I stopped teaching him I could be punished. "Absolutely," I said. He nodded. "You understand this could lead to his arrest?" "I understand," I said. And for the first time in months, the fear in my chest started to turn into something else. Relief. Because if Brett wanted to live by that quote, then I was about to show him what happened when someone couldn't handle his worst, and decided they didn't deserve his best either. Officer Ramirez didn't look at me like I was dramatic. He didn't ask what I'd done to set him off. He looked at my ruined car and said bluntly, "Okay, then we're doing this right." He asked for my license, confirmed the vehicle information, then squatted near the driver's side door and pointed at the glittering field of glass inside. "You can't drive this," he said. "I figured. You'd get pulled over in 3 blocks and you'd deserve it. It's a safety hazard." He straightened up. "Call your insurance. Get a tow. I'll wait." I called my insurance with hands that were finally starting to steady. They asked the usual questions. Location, type of damage, whether anyone was injured, and then they issued a rental voucher and dispatched a tow truck to take the car to their approved repair shop. While I waited, I kept staring at the lipstick note. The MM signature looked smug, like Brett believed he'd just delivered some poetic consequence instead of committing a crime. Officer Ramirez watched me watch it. "You said this isn't the first time he's damaged your property," he said gently, like he already knew the answer. My throat tightened. "He keyed my car 3 months ago," I admitted. Carved "text me back" into the door. He let out a slow breath through his nose. "Did you report it?" "No." "Why not?" "Because he apologized. Because he cried. Because he promised. Because he said he had trauma. Because he said he only did it because he loved me so much it hurt. Because I was ashamed I'd stayed after the first red flag, and then the second, and then the third." "He said he'd never do it again," I whispered. Ramirez's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened with something like anger on my behalf. "And then he did," he said. The tow truck came. I watched them sweep glass out of my seats like it was just another Tuesday, like my life hadn't been cracked open along with that windshield. Then Ramirez opened the back door of his patrol car. "We need to locate him and take his statement," he said. "You said he lives with you?" "My apartment," I corrected automatically. 5th Street. He nodded. "You want to come with us?" I hesitated for half a second, my old instincts screaming, "Don't make him mad. Don't escalate." Then I pictured the lipstick note again. "I'm coming," I said. On the drive over, my phone buzzed. A text from Brett. "Where are you?" No punctuation, just demand. Another buzz. "You think you can ignore me and call the cops?" My stomach dropped, but my voice stayed steady when I handed the phone to Ramirez. "Here," I said. "He's texting now." Ramirez glanced at it, jaw tightening. "Okay," he said quietly. "Good. That helps." When we pulled into my apartment complex, Brett's car was in the lot like it belonged there. Like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just shattered my windshield and then gone home to relax. Ramirez and another officer, Officer Patel, the backup, followed me up the stairs. Every step felt like walking toward an explosion. I unlocked the door. The air inside was warm and smelled faintly like vanilla. My stomach turned because that scent used to mean comfort. Now it felt like camouflage, sweetness painted over rot. Brett was sprawled on the couch, spooning ice cream straight from the container. Netflix played in the background. He was watching The Notebook. Of course he was. He looked up, saw me, smiled like he'd been waiting for applause. Then his eyes flicked past me, to the uniform. His smile faltered. "What's going on?" he asked, voice suddenly too light. Officer Ramirez stepped forward. "Sir, I'm Officer Ramirez. Are you Brett Walsh?" Brett blinked, then sat up straighter. "Yeah, why?" "We're here regarding an incident involving vandalism, specifically the destruction of a vehicle windshield belonging to..." Ramirez checked his notes. "Ophelia Grant." Brett's eyes widened in practiced confusion. He actually laughed. "I don't know what you're talking about." I almost laughed too. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. The first move in Brett's playbook was always denial, said with confidence, like reality would back down if he stared hard enough. Ramirez pulled out his phone and showed him the photos. My car, the obliterated windshield, the lipstick note. Brett's gaze dropped to the coffee table, and there it was. The lipstick. The exact shade, still sitting out like a weapon left on the counter. His face shifted, confusion melting into defiance in the span of 2 seconds. And there it was. The real Brett. "You want to know what happened?" he snapped, standing. "I'll tell you what happened. I was ignored." "Sir," Ramirez said calmly, "that doesn't give you the right..." "Do you know how long I waited?" Brett cut in, voice rising. 90 minutes. 90 minutes of being treated like I don't exist." Patel's eyes flicked to me. A silent question. Is he serious? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because if I opened my mouth, I was afraid I'd either scream or start crying. And I refused to give Brett either satisfaction. Ramirez tried again. "Ma'am, Ophelia was in a work meeting." "So?" Brett barked. "People used to go to war. They used to fight battles. And she can't even send a 2-second text? What kind of girlfriend ignores her boyfriend for 90 minutes? The words hit me like slaps. Not because I believe them, but because I recognize the pattern. He was building a case where he was the victim, and I was the cruel one. Ramirez turned to him. "Sir, you understand that destroying someone's property is illegal." Brett's chest heaved. His eyes were bright, like he was performing. "If you can't handle me at my worst," he said, slow and dramatic, "you don't deserve me at my best. Marilyn Monroe said that." Ramirez stared at him. Then something unexpected happened. He sighed, like a man who'd heard this exact line one too many times. "Marilyn Monroe didn't say that," Ramirez said. Brett froze. "What?" That quote is widely misattributed. There's no record of Monroe ever saying it. Brett's mouth opened, then closed again. For a second, I saw real panic flash behind his eyes. Not remorse, not shame, but the fear of losing a prop. Like someone had yanked the script out of his hands. "That's not true," he said, voice cracking with indignation. "It's famous. It's everywhere." "It being on mugs doesn't make it real," Ramirez replied flatly. "And even if it was real, it doesn't justify a crime." Brett's face twisted. "You don't get it. She provoked me. She made me feel worthless." Patel spoke up, firmer now. "The consequence of not getting a text back is not vandalism." Brett pointed at me like I was on trial. "She's always doing this, acting like she's so busy, like I'm not important." Ramirez glanced at me again. "How long have you been together?" 8 months, I said. "And this is typical behavior?" he asked quietly. I swallowed. The old me wanted to soften it, to protect Brett from consequences. But the note on my steering wheel had already said what Brett was. "Yes," I said, "this is typical." Brett's head snapped toward me. "Wow," he hissed. "So you're really doing this?" Ramirez's voice went colder. "Sir, did you destroy her windshield?" Brett hesitated, just a fraction too long. Then, like he couldn't help himself, like entitlement was a reflex, he lifted his chin. "I had every right," he said. That was it. Ramirez nodded once, as if something clicked into place. "Okay," he said. "Sir, I'm going to need you to come down to the station with us." Brett laughed again, sharp and disbelieving. "For what? Over a windshield?" "Over deliberate destruction of property that you just admitted to," Ramirez said. "Based on the extent of damage, you're looking at criminal mischief and possibly felony-level property damage, depending on the repair cost." Brett's face went white. "Felony?" he whispered, like the word tasted wrong. Ramirez didn't flinch. "You can come voluntarily, or I can place you under arrest." Brett's eyes darted. Toward the door, toward me, toward the officers, like he was calculating escape routes. "This is insane," he muttered. "She's ruining my life." No, I said softly, surprising myself. You did. He whirled on me. Say that again. Ramirez stepped between us. Sir, stand up. Place your hands behind your back. Brett's voice jumped an octave. You're arresting me? Yes, Ramirez said. For what? You've just confessed, Patel said, voice clipped, and we have evidence. Brett stood, shaking now, but not with fear, with fury. He let Ramirez cuff him, but he wouldn't stop talking. This is abuse, he shouted. She's abusing me. I'm the victim here. Ramirez looked exhausted already. Sir, stop. Brett craned his neck toward me as they guided him to the door. If you can't handle me at my worst, he shouted, you don't deserve me at my best. His words echoed down the hallway. Doors cracked open. Neighbors stared. I stood in my doorway, arms wrapped around myself, watching my 8-month mistake get led away in handcuffs. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt safe. Outside, they placed him into the back of the patrol car. He kept yelling through the glass, muffled now, like a tantrum trapped in a box. This isn't what Marilyn Monroe meant, he screamed. Ramirez turned to me, rubbing a hand over his face. You ready to give your statement? He asked. I nodded. At the station, everything was fluorescent lights and paperwork and the harsh, clean smell of consequences. I gave my full timeline, the meeting, the 17 texts, the you'll see, the parking garage, the missing windshield, the lipstick note. They processed Brett. Fingerprints, mugshot, inventory of his belongings. He screamed from the holding cell like he couldn't comprehend that the world didn't revolve around his feelings. You don't deserve me, he shouted. You don't deserve my best. I walked past the bars and looked at him once. I don't want your best, I said. He blinked, confused, like I'd spoken a language he didn't understand. Then he erupted again, voice cracking, rage spilling everywhere. Detective Angela Wren, older, calm-eyed, the kind of woman who'd seen every variation of human entitlement, took over the case. She flipped through the report and looked up at me. How long were you together? She asked. 8 months. First time he's destroyed your property? No, he keyed my car 3 months ago. You report that? No. She nodded, not judging, just noting the pattern. We'll need the repair estimate, she said. In this state, felony threshold is over 1,000 dis. I swallowed. Because I already knew windshield replacements weren't cheap. And because as I sat there signing forms, my phone buzzed again. A new number. A voicemail. I didn't need to listen to know it was him. Detective Wren saw my face change. He call you often? She asked. Constantly, I admitted. She slid a form across the desk. You should file for a restraining order, she said. Temporary order can be granted same day with evidence of property damage or threats, which you have. I stared at the form, my name on the top, the empty lines waiting for me to write down the truth. And suddenly I realized arresting him wasn't the end. Because even in handcuffs, Brett was still trying to reach through the bars of my phone, still trying to punish me for not answering fast enough. But this time, I wasn't going to apologize for having a life. I was going to protect it. I didn't go home that night. Not at first. After I finished my statement, Detective Wren walked me to the lobby and handed me a small stack of papers. Case number, officer names, next steps written in neat, practiced handwriting. Your car's at the shop, she said. Insurance will contact you with the estimate. As soon as you have that, send it to me. I will. She hesitated, then lowered her voice. You should seriously consider staying somewhere else tonight. I nodded. I'd already been thinking the same thing. Even with Brett in custody, my apartment felt contaminated, like his anger was still smeared on the walls. I stayed with Maya. She didn't ask questions when I showed up at 9:30 p.m. with nothing but my laptop bag and a hollow look in my eyes. She just opened the door and pulled me into a hug so tight my knees almost buckled. I told you, she whispered, not as an accusation, but as relief that I was finally here, safe. I didn't sleep much. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. Even though I'd blocked Brett's number, I half expected him to find a way through. A new number, an email, a message sent through someone else. But morning came quietly, and with it, a clarity that felt sharp and fragile, like glass that hadn't shattered yet. I went back to my apartment at sunrise, with Maya, and with resolve. The door opened to the same vanilla smell, the same couch, the same half-melted ice cream carton still on the coffee table like he'd just stepped out for a moment. Except he hadn't. He'd stepped into a holding cell. I packed his things methodically. Clothes first. Shoes. The hoodie he borrowed and never gave back. Toiletries. Chargers. The framed photo of us from month 2, when his arm around me had felt protective instead of possessive. Each item went into a box. By the 3rd box, my hands stopped shaking. By the fifth, I felt angry. Not explosive anger, clean anger. The kind that says you don't get to do this to me anymore. I stacked the boxes by the door, then called an emergency locksmith. It cost me $150 to change the locks at 9 in the morning. Worth every cent. From there, I went straight to the courthouse. The restraining order paperwork was thick and clinical. Blank lines asking me to compress months of fear into bullet points. Describe the incident. List prior threats or acts of violence. Provide supporting evidence. I attached everything. Photos of my windshield. Screenshots of the text spiral. The lipstick note. The police report number. The clerk didn't react much. Just nodded, stamped, passed it along. You can wait, she said. Judge usually reviews these within a couple hours. I sat on a hard bench, hands folded in my lap, staring at a poster about courthouse etiquette. No phones, no outbursts, no drama. I wondered how Brett would handle a place like this. 2 hours later, my name was called. The judge, a woman with silver hair pulled into a severe bun, read through my packet without looking at me at first. Her lips pressed into a thin line as she flipped pages. Then she looked up. Ms. Grant, she said, based on the evidence provided, I'm granting a temporary restraining order, effective immediately. My breath left me in a rush. Mr. Walsh is to remain at least 500 feet away from you, your residence, and your workplace. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. I nodded, throat tight. Take this seriously, she added. Do not contact him. Do not respond if he contacts you. Call the police if he violates the order. I will, I said. And I meant it. 2 days later, Brett's arraignment was scheduled for 2 p.m. I didn't have to go, but I wanted to. I wanted to see him in a room where his charm didn't work, where his feelings weren't the center of gravity. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not temperature-wise, emotionally. Wood benches, muted murmurs, the low hum of inevitability. Brett was brought in wearing county-issued clothes. No hoodie, no carefully styled hair, no performance-ready confidence. He looked smaller. When he saw me in this gallery, his eyes lit up with relief, like I was his lifeline. The judge read the charge, criminal damage to property. Brett's public defender leaned in, whispered something. Not guilty, Brett said, loud enough for the room to hear. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the estimated damage is pending. Preliminary indications suggest the cost may exceed the felony threshold. Brett's head snapped up. Felony, he blurted. Sir, the judge said sharply, you will remain silent unless addressed. The public defender tried to speak. Your Honor, my client has no prior criminal history. According to the police report, the judge interrupted, there is documentation of prior property damage involving the same victim. Brett turned toward me, eyes wide, mouth open like he'd been betrayed. How could you tell them? His face said. I didn't look away. Bail was set. $5,000. 10% cash. Brett swallowed hard. He didn't have 500. The judge didn't care. He will remain in custody until trial, she said. Next date will be scheduled accordingly. Brett started talking again, too fast, too loud. I didn't mean it. I was just upset. She ignored me. The gavel cracked down. One more word and I'll hold you in contempt, the judge warned. Brett shut up. As they led him out, he twisted around, desperate. Ophelia, he said, voice cracking, suddenly soft. Tell them it was a mistake. I didn't respond. Please, he said. I'm sorry. Still nothing. His expression hardened, like he needed the last word. You don't deserve my best anyway. There it was. Even now, even here. The mask slipped, but only enough to show it had always been hollow. Outside the courtroom, the prosecutor caught up with me. There's something you should know, she said. This case may not be just about you. I frowned. What do you mean? She hesitated, then chose her words carefully. We've received inquiries, other complaints, similar patterns. My stomach dropped. How many? At least 2, she said. Ex-girlfriends. Similar vandalism. Same quote. The lipstick note flashed in my mind. The MM. The smug signature. A pattern. I walked out into the daylight feeling like I'd stepped out of a tunnel and realized the road behind me was lined with wreckage. I wasn't the exception. I was just the one who finally called the police. The trial began 6 weeks later. By then, the shock had worn off. And what replaced it wasn't peace yet, but vigilance. The kind that makes you double-check locks. The kind that flinches at unfamiliar footsteps behind you. Brett had remained in custody the entire time, unable to make bail, unable to charm his way out, and according to the prosecutor, increasingly angry that his favorite quote wasn't working on judges the way it worked on Instagram. I sat in the gallery on the first day of trial, hands folded, spine straight, reminding myself to breathe. Brett sat at the defense table in an ill-fitting suit that tried very hard to look like accountability. His hair was neatly combed. His posture was attentive. He nodded solemnly at his lawyer like a man taking this very seriously. I recognized the act. I'd lived with it. The prosecutor opened with the facts, dates, times, evidence, but then she did something I wasn't expecting. She turned to the jury and said, "This case is not about a single act of vandalism. It's about a pattern." My pulse picked up. She called the first witness. A woman in her late 30s walked to the stand. Tall, composed, expensive haircut that said she was used to being taken seriously. "Please state your name for the record." "Dr. Hannah Park," she said, "cardiothoracic surgeon." A ripple went through the courtroom. The prosecutor didn't linger on her credentials. She didn't need to. "Dr. Park," she said, "how do you know the defendant?" Hannah took a breath. "We dated for about 4 months, just over a year ago." "And how did that relationship end?" Hannah's jaw tightened, not with emotion, but with memory. "He destroyed my car." Brett stiffened. The prosecutor let the silence stretch. "Can you describe the circumstances?" "I was in surgery," Hannah said. "Emergency bypass. My phone was in my locker, as required. When I came out 6 hours later, I had 83 text messages from Brett." 83. I felt something cold settle in my chest, a strange mix of validation and grief. "And what happened next?" the prosecutor asked. "I went to the parking structure after my shift," Hannah said. "All 4 of my tires were slashed. There was a note on my windshield, written in lipstick." She swallowed. It said, "If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Signed, MM." The courtroom felt very small all of a sudden. "Did you report this incident?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes," Hannah said. "But by the time I did, Brett had moved out of state. The damage didn't meet the felony threshold where it happened, and jurisdiction became complicated." The prosecutor nodded. "How much did the damage cost?" "About $900. She thanked Hannah and moved on. Brett's attorney cross-examined, tried to imply emotional distress, abandonment, misunderstanding. Hannah didn't waver. "I was saving a patient's life," she said evenly. "I did not deserve to have my property destroyed for doing my job." Next witness. Another woman stood, younger than Hannah, softer around the edges, nervous hands clasped tight. "Please state your name." "Marissa Collins." "And how do you know the defendant?" "We went on 3 dates," Marissa said. 3. My throat tightened. "And what happened?" "I flew to Colorado for my sister's wedding," Marissa said. "Brett wanted to come. I told him it was too soon. Family only. He said he understood." She paused. "My phone was off during the ceremony and reception. When I got home, my apartment window was shattered. There was a brick on my living room floor." The prosecutor's voice was calm. "Was there a note?" "Yes." Marissa's voice shook now. "The same quote, same signature." The damage this time had totaled $1,800. Window replacement, ruined furniture, broken glass everywhere. The prosecutor turned to the jury. 3 women, 3 incidents, 3 separate acts of property destruction, all triggered by delayed or unavailable communication, all justified by the same misattributed quote. She let that sink in. Brett's lawyer tried a new angle. Emotional distress, fear of abandonment, temporary loss of control. The prosecutor called a psychologist. "Destroying property because someone doesn't respond to a text message is not insanity," the psychologist testified. "It is entitlement. It is a learned behavior reinforced by a lack of consequences." I watched Brett's face as that word landed. Entitlement. Not misunderstood, not passionate. Entitled. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. When they returned, I didn't hold my breath. I didn't pray. I just waited. The 4-person stood. On the charge of criminal damage to property in the 3rd degree, we find the defendant guilty. Brett exhaled sharply like he'd been punched. I felt something loosen inside me. Not joy. Release. But sentencing was still coming. Sentencing was set for 2 weeks later. By then, the story had settled into my bones in a way that surprised me. Not as trauma, but as certainty. The kind that doesn't shake when someone raises their voice. The courtroom was fuller this time. Curiosity, maybe. Or justice, finally visible. Brett stood when the judge entered. Judge Eleanor Whitmore, late 60s, silver hair, eyes that had seen every excuse dressed up as emotion. She didn't waste time. "Mr. Walsh," she said, scanning the file, "you have been found guilty of criminal damage to property in the 3rd degree. Before I impose sentence, do you have anything you'd like to say?" Brett rose slowly. His attorney touched his sleeve. "Don't," but Brett shook him off. "Your Honor," Brett began. voice trembling in a way that might have fooled someone once. I just want to say I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I was provoked. A ripple went through the gallery. These women ignored me, he continued. They made me feel invisible, worthless. Judge Whitmore held up a hand. Stop right there. She reached beneath the bench and pulled out a printed packet. I did some research, she said calmly, because you have repeatedly justified your actions with a quote attributed to Marilyn Monroe. Brett blinked. The judge adjusted her glasses. According to multiple verified sources, including the Marilyn Monroe estate, that quote did not originate from her. It first appeared on an anonymous internet blog in 2011 and was later falsely attributed to her. Brett stared. But it's everywhere, he said weakly. So are lies, Judge Whitmore replied. She leaned forward. You have built your defense around a fabrication. You have used a fake quote to excuse real crimes. Brett's shoulders slumped. My whole personality, he whispered, is based on that quote. Then it may be time for a new personality, the judge said evenly. I heard a stifled sound from the gallery, someone trying not to laugh. Judge Whitmore continued, You have shown no genuine remorse. Even after hearing testimony from 3 victims, you insisted they deserved the damage you inflicted. That tells this court that you do not understand the gravity of your actions. She straightened. I hereby sentence you to 18 months in county jail, followed by 3 years probation, mandatory anger management counseling, and full restitution to all 3 victims. Brett's face crumpled. This isn't fair, he cried. They ignored me. The world does not revolve around your phone, Judge Whitmore said sharply. People have lives, obligations, jobs. Your inability to accept that does not give you the right to destroy their property. Brett opened his mouth. Do not quote Marilyn Monroe, the judge warned. She didn't say it. The bailiff approached. As Brett was led away, he twisted toward the gallery, toward me. Ophelia, he said, voice breaking. I didn't mean it. I didn't answer. 3 months later, I received a check for $1,247, restitution for my windshield. Insurance had already covered the repair, so I deposited the money and booked a quiet trip to San Diego. Ocean air, long walks, space to breathe. I sent postcards to Hannah and Marissa. Hannah texted back a week later, got my restitution, taking my wife to Maui. Thank you for calling the police. Marissa sent a selfie from her new apartment. New place, new locks, no chaos. Brett got out early, 14 months, good behavior. He moved back in with his parents, got a job at a call center, still posted that quote online. Now people commented, Isn't that fake? Didn't you go to jail over this? We've been over this, Brett. He deleted the posts every time. His mother called me once. Ophelia, she said quietly, I just wanted to apologize. I didn't raise him to be like that. I know, I said, and I meant it. I was dating someone new by then. Evan. Calm. Thoughtful. A man who didn't treat silence like betrayal. One afternoon, I was in meetings for 3 hours. When I checked my phone, I had one text. Saw a meme. Thought of you. Send later. That was it. No spiral, no threats, no fear. That's the difference. Because even if Marilyn Monroe had said that quote, which she didn't, it would still be wrong. Your worst should be a bad day, a short temper, a moment of stress. Your worst should not be vandalism, control, or fear. If your worst involves destroying someone's life because they didn't text back fast enough, they don't owe you their patience. They owe you a police report. And Brett, despite everything, still believed he'd be given a chance to explain himself.